Before we start, just a quick reminder to hit that subscribe button. Only 2% are subscribed at 1,000 subscribers. I'll be posting a special video. The folder hit the counter and burst open, forms fan-like threats. I got answers, Evan said, shoulders tight and drawn. Our toddler froze mid-step and watched us breathe. Whose answers? I asked, fingers steady on the edge. He pointed at the top page without blinking. I'm Mara, 29. My name stared back from a lab request. Paternity testing authorization, no date, no chain of custody. Your mother sent this, he said, voice rough. Something inside me braced for impact. Where did she get it? I asked, pulse spiking hard. Evan slid his phone across the counter. A text thread glared with cropped screenshots. From someone who knows you well, he said. I felt the trap close, clean and practiced. Our son tugged my sleeve, then hid behind my leg. Evan's jaw worked like a locked hinge. Tell me why these exist, he said, eyes cold. I scanned the header for anything real. The logo looked stretched by a careless hand. Zoom in, I said, keeping my voice controlled. He enlarged the image until the pixels broke. The signature line was blank, the date field empty. Anyone could build this in 5 minutes, I said. He swallowed once, still not convinced. The phone buzzed hard on the counter. Her name flashed with another attachment, bolder, clearer. Use a respectable lab, the text read. Not that discount place you favor. Evan flinched like she'd yanked his shoulder. Call her now, I said, throat tight and burning. He raised the phone but didn't tap. She thinks you'll run if we test, he said. He set the phone down like it might explode. I picked it up and hit video. Her face filled the screen with a smile too calm. You finally decided to be transparent, she said. Show me your proof, I said, hand steady. She tilted her head like a judge. You'll see more when he sees truth. Evan stepped closer, arms folded like armor. Where did you get the paperwork? He asked. She sighed as if bored by rules. A friend at a clinic owed me, she said. I caught the pause, the sloppy tell. Name the clinic, I said, not blinking once. Her gaze shifted an inch to the left. I'll text it, details are private, she said. She ended the call without another breath. Silence dragged thick and loaded. I opened the kitchen drawer and grabbed a pen. I circled every missing element on the printout. Witness lines empty, case number absent, seal missing. Evan watched my hand move fast. His face didn't soften yet. Our son started humming and tapping the chair leg. I crouched and kissed his hair quickly. Snack later, game later, I whispered fast. He nodded and went back to tapping. The rhythm drilled through my nerves. Chain of custody, I said, eyes on Evan again. Real test recorded, no outside hands. He stared at the folder like it might lie. Today, he said, voice flat as concrete. I grabbed my keys and didn't argue. The phone pinged with a new message and address. Different city wing, different clinic, different number. Go here, her text ordered with a little heart. Evan looked at me, then looked away. I felt the bait swing on its hook. We choose the clinic, I said, firm and slow. Neutral, certified, no friends in hallways. Evan tapped his own search with tight fingers. He held the screen up without words. I nodded before doubt could speak. Another ping, longer text, sharper tone. Don't delay if you have nothing to hide. Evan's thumb hovered over reply, then lifted. He locked the phone and pocketed it. His eyes finally met mine and held. Our son reached for his shoes and tripped. I caught him before he hit the floor. Evan was there too, hands gentle and sure. We steadied him together, then froze again. The pause felt like a pulled pin. Grab his health card, Evan said, voice clipped. I moved fast, no rummaging, no wasted motion. Wallet, keys, diaper pack, clean towel for hands. We stepped into the hallway without another word. The door clicked behind us like a verdict. In the elevator, I texted one person. Amanda, nurse, no gossip, tight circle. Need a legit lab today, I wrote. Chain of custody required, I added. 3 dots blinked, then stopped, then returned. Use Eastview Diagnostics, Amanda wrote back. Ask for custody kit and pay a desk. I showed Evan and watched his shoulders drop. Not relief, just traction, just something solid. He nodded once like a small oath. We reached the car and buckled our son. He kicked once, then settled with a toy. Evan gripped the wheel and stared ahead. Whatever the result, no more third parties, he said. I tapped the dashboard, one hard beat, promise given. The phone lit the console with her name again. I silenced it and sent our location to Amanda. Text if anyone tries to redirect, I wrote. Screenshots ready, she replied fast. I breathed once deep and clean, then braced. Traffic crawled, horns, short bursts, narrow gaps. Evan drove steady like he trusted the lane. My screen pulsed with a new unknown number. Clinic C. Lose, use Carlton Lab instead, it warned. I looked at Evan and lifted the phone. Block it, he said, eyes still forward. I blocked it, then took a screenshot. Almost there, he said, jaw tight again. Our son sang a broken rhyme in the back. Each note felt like a countdown. We pulled into Eastview, plain building, unfriendly parking. The sign listed services with sterile precision. Evan unbuckled our son and handed him over. His hands were careful and exact. We walked in together like a unit under fire. The receptionist looked up with a neutral smile. Chain of custody, paternity, I said, voice steady. She slid forms under the glass and pointed once. Fill these and keep the envelopes sealed, she said. The words landed like checkpoints, clean and necessary. I signed my lines, no tremor, no pause. Evan signed his lines, slow and deliberate. Our son watched the pen like a hawk. The nurse called our name from the doorway. We stood and the room tilted slightly. IDs please, the nurse said, palm open. She examined them under a small scanner light. She logged numbers with a firm tap rhythm. We record the handoff and seal, she said. My lungs finally learned how to work. Swabs quick, 2 each for the adults. 1 for our son, gentle, brief, done. The nurse bagged each kit and pressed the seal. She signed across the tape with today's date. Evan watched each stroke like a hawk. Results in 48 hours, she said, voice even. No phone disclosures, pick up with ID. We nodded, simple, no speeches, no pleads. She handed us the receipt and a claim number. I pocketed it like a live wire. Outside, my phone vibrated again, long and insistent. I opened it and saw a new message. A photo of our building door with a caption. Home to talk, I brought lunch. Evan leaned in and saw the same line. He exhaled through his teeth, short and harsh. Don't bring him to that, he said. I set our son in the car and kissed him. Park 2 blocks away and circle back, I said. Evan nodded and turned the key hard. We took the long route, no music, no chatter. Our son dozed with his toy on his chest. My screen showed our hallway camera feed. Her silhouette waited at our door, bag dangling. Evan's hands tightened until the wheel creaked. We go up together, I said, voice low. No yelling, no touching, record everything. He nodded once and put the car in park. We stepped out into the late afternoon heat. This wasn't over, this was only the first push. She was already turning our key when we reached the door. Perfect timing, I brought something simple to eat. Evan planted his foot in the frame and blocked her. We're not here to eat. Her smile stayed, but the eyes sharpened. She held up a sealed envelope like a summons. Quick signature for the baby's medical file. I lifted my phone and started the recording. What file? Read it out loud. She tried to step past us and failed. She broke the seal with a little click. Inside sat a notarized consent for alternate guardian access. Evan skimmed fast, then looked up hard. You tried this before the test. Standard precaution, she murmured, gaze sliding to the stroller. I pushed the stroller inside and locked the wheels. Her hand hovered like a hawk's hunting. Let me take him for a walk. Evan shifted between them without breaking eye contact. Walks happen later, after answers. She angled her phone at my face and started filming. See, refusing transparency on camera, she announced to no one. I lifted the lab receipt into her frame. Chain of custody code on record, collection done. Her jaw ticked once like a misfire. A neighbor opened his door and froze mid-step. She turned to him with instant warmth. Would you witness a quick signature for safety? He glanced at us and stayed very still. Not my business, he muttered, retreating fast. She drew a tiny comb from her bag. Hair sample saves everyone time, she offered, voice light. I rolled the stroller back an inch. You try to take anything and we call security. Her fingers curled around the comb like a plan. Evan reached into his pocket and set down the recorder. We'll do this clean, speak clearly. Her smile faded but the tone sharpened. Your wife forged hospital papers with her friend. I felt the heat rise but kept my stare. Name the friend, Evan kept his voice flat. She blinked once then changed lanes. Better lab exists, Carlton verifies in hours. Carlton is off the table, I cut in. She ignored me and tapped a speed dial. Jamie's name flashed on her screen before the call connected. She angled the phone so we could hear. Did you talk to them about responsible fatherhood? A breath on the line and then silence. She hung up fast and slid the phone away. I placed the receipt on the counter between us. The kit is sealed and logged, pick up only. She glanced down, then up, then back down. Numbers can be misplaced if the clinic is busy. Evans' mouth twitched like a warning flare. She switched tactics with a new envelope. Then signed this affirmation of support. The form granted her emergency decision rights during transition. Transition to what? I asked, pulse punching. To a more stable environment, she answered, eyes shining. Our son kicked the stroller bar and laughed. She softened instantly and crouched to his height. Grandma has a special snack for brave boys. I moved the stroller behind my leg without talking. She reached and Evan's hand stopped her wrist. Her tone turned syrupy until it cut. Refusing food on camera looks cruel. Recording shows manipulation, not hunger, I replied. She straightened and smoothed the paper like a stage. The comb glinted again from her palm. Open your mouth, sweetheart, just a second. The comb shifted to a cotton swab tucked underneath. She had taped it to the spine like a trick. Evan plucked it free and held it up. Her smile died in the doorway. I photographed the swab and the tape. Attempt to collect an unauthorized specimen, I narrated calmly. She turned toward the hallway as if expecting help. No one appeared, only our breathing filled the space. She returned her stare to me like a blade. Last chance, sign the access form and avoid chaos. Evan folded the paper into quarters and set it aside. Stop trying to build your case here. She leaned closer until I saw the strain. Cases are built where mothers hide things. I opened my messages and typed in front of her. Clinic confirms custody protocol, I sent to Amanda. Ping, a reply landed almost instantly. Do not sign anything, call me if pressured. I tilted the screen so everyone could see. She looked at Evan instead of me. Marriages recover from mistakes when men act decisively. Men act decisively by ignoring extortion, he answered quietly. Her nostrils flared, then she pivoted to soft again. I only want certainty for the child. You'll have it in 48 hours. She scoffed and shook her head once. Judges prefer immediate clarity from trusted professionals. Which professionals? Name them now. Her lips pressed into a thin, stubborn line. A knock sounded at the open doorframe. A courier in a polo held a padded mailer. Delivery for Jamie, he announced, checking the number. Wrong unit, wrong floor, wrong time. She stiffened like someone had jammed a wire. The courier peered at the label and frowned. Signature requested by sender, return if unavailable. He left when no one volunteered. She tracked the package down the hall like prey. Evan closed the door halfway and waited. She stepped forward before it latched. You're pushing me to protect this child alone. You're pushing us, I countered, keeping my voice even. Stop trying to collect samples outside protocol. Her mouth trembled, then flattened like a pressed leaf. She reached for the stroller once more. Evan moved first and rolled it farther inside. Visit ends now, he said, hand steady on the handle. She stared at him as if weighing the ground. Then I escalate, she whispered, eyes bright with resolve. Record your escalation, I answered and raised the phone. She lifted her own and filmed the hallway. Witness that we were denied civil access, she declared. I watched her capture angles that suggested chaos. Evan clicked the lock before she could invent more. Her knuckles tapped the wood 2 slow times. You'll regret this delay, drifted through the crack. Footsteps faded down the corridor and disappeared. My chest finally rose without stutter. The stroller creaked as our son shifted. Evan set the tape swab on the counter. We keep this for the pickup day. I slid it into a dated bag and sealed it. If she tries a story, we show this. The apartment felt like a held breath. The phone chimed with a new text thread. Unknown number again, no name attached. Custody consult at 5 if you're smart, it read. Evan's jaw tightened and then released. We go anyway, we hear and document. I strapped our son into his seat and checked the door. Evan tucked the receipt into his wallet and nodded. We killed the lights and stepped into the hall. No one waited this time, only the echo carried. We headed for the elevator and didn't look back. The elevator doors slid open and a clerk waved us in. 5 o'clock consult for you two. We hadn't given our names. Evan's hand paused on the stroller handle. Someone booked this for us already. The clerk handed over a clipboard and a pen. Sign in for family stabilization. I set my phone to record and kept the pen capped. Who scheduled this? I asked without blinking. She pointed to a line with his mother's initials. A man in a muted suit appeared from a side room. Let's keep this brief and calm. He gestured toward the chairs and waited. Evan stayed standing and pushed the stroller beside him. We didn't sit for traps. The man opened a file with crisp mo. Dion's proposed interim arrangement to reduce conflict. He slid a form that granted senior relative oversight. My pulse climbed one notch and held. I didn't touch the paper. Not signing anything today. He folded his hands and tried a warmer tone. Temporary measures often prevent bigger battles. I placed the swab photo on the desk. He studied it, then shifted the file aside. Collection methods can be imperfect in homes. He tried a sympathetic smile that never reached his eyes. Better to authorize an alternate laboratory for certainty. Which lab? Evan asked with no soft edges. He cleared his throat and mentioned Carlton by name. I set the lab receipt beside the picture. Our samples already logged and sealed. The man's brows lifted a millimeter, then settled. Results can be redirected to a neutral party. He spoke the word neutral like a sales pitch. My phone vibrated with a new message mid-sentence. Amanda, fast line of text. Clinic just got a reroute request from authorized family representative. She attached a screenshot of the forged authorization. The signature looked almost right until the last letter. I held the screen up without commentary. The man's smile thinned and then steadied. Clerical mistakes happen when people are stressed. Evan leaned closer to the desk and stilled. Who asked you to push Carlton? The door cracked and a polished voice slipped in. There you are, I was worried you'd skip. She swept inside before anyone invited her. The clerk tried to intercept and failed. The man stood, then decided to sit again. She placed a folder in front of him. Add these to the file for immediate action. He reached for it and glanced at us. I tapped the screen toward her like a metronome. Explain the attempt to redirect our results. Her smile never moved, but her shoulders tightened. Families need clarity fast, not endless back and forth. Evan slid the photo of the taped swab across. She ignored it and unfolded her new documents. Emergency care plan in case of parental instability. Instability created by whom? I asked, voice even. She raised her phone and recorded the room. See how aggressive she becomes around the child. Our son chirped once at a toy and yawned. The sound landed like a lie detector. The man tried to steer the ship back. Let's focus on practical protections until lab work finishes. Protections for whom? Evan asked without blinking. For the minor, the man answered too quickly. A dull alarm started ringing in my chest. My screen lit again with a new alert. Building camera feed showed 2 officers outside our door. A message from the neighbor followed in short bursts. They knocked about a welfare complaint from a relative. I felt the room tilt, then lock. She glanced at my phone and softened her tone. Mandatory reporters move swiftly when safety is uncertain. Did you call them? I asked, not moving at all. She looked past me to the man in the suit. Counsel advises thorough documentation in delicate cases. Evan's jaw flexed once, then went still. Call the neighbor on speaker, he murmured toward me. I dialed and held the phone between us. Everything looks fine here, the neighbor whispered. They asked about holes in walls and loud fights. The man drummed one finger and stopped. He reached for a different form with a colored tab. Stipulate shared decision power to avoid escalations tonight. He pushed it toward Evan like a lifeline. Evan didn't touch it. Amanda's name flashed again with a fresh note. Clinic blocked the reroute and flagged the number. She attached the caller ID request from a private line. I turned the phone so the man could read it. He looked at the door before he looked at me. She rested her hand on the stroller bar. Let grandma calm him while adults handle paperwork. I rolled it back an inch and set the brake. Evan's shoulders lowered but his stare hardened. Hands off until this is finished. Her smile cracked and then reset. Your pride risks delays that hurt the child. I lowered my voice and spoke into the recorder. Documented attempt to obtain genetic material without consent. She recoiled like the word burned. The suit tried one last bridge. Sign an observation allowance for short visits. Observation where? I asked, making him say it. At my office for now, he answered carefully. A trap wrapped like a courtesy. The clerk reappeared with a printed schedule grid. Tomorrow morning has a hearing slot open. I stared at the blank boxes and breathed once. Who placed us on that docket? The clerk glanced at her screen and swallowed. Petition filed an hour ago by a relative. Evan watched his mother without blinking. She tucked a stray hair behind her ear slowly. Time works against confusion, she murmured to the desk. The man shifted his pen to his other hand. I reached for my bag and pulled out the recorder case. I placed it next to the form and clicked the lid. Continue talking about the petition for the record. She paused and weighed the room in silence. The clock in the hall clicked like a warning. She tried a different angle with sudden sweetness. End this dance and let him take a cheek swab now. Evan laughed once without humor and stood taller. The only swabs are at the laboratory under custody seal. He lifted the stroller handles like a drawbridge closing. My phone rang with an unknown number and a clipped ID. The pediatric office flashed across the screen. I answered on speaker and kept the camera aimed. Confirming a fax change to parental access, the nurse said. I stared at his mother until she looked away. We sent no such change, I replied, voice clear. Thank you, we will disregard that fax, the nurse answered. The man in the suit rubbed his temple briefly. Miscommunications are common during high-stress periods. He gave up on eye contact with me. I gathered the papers on our side into a neat stack. I slid the fake consent to the top for emphasis. We'll respond at the courthouse with counsel. His mother lifted her chin a fraction and smiled thinly. Bring your best. We wheeled toward the door without rushing. The clerk moved aside but kept staring at the forms. The man called after us with professional calm. Take a copy of the schedule in case. I didn't reach back. In the hallway, my phone pinged 3 times. First, Amanda, clinic filed an incident report on the reroute. Second, the neighbor, officers left but will follow up tomorrow. Third, an unknown number with a single sentence. Carlton can finalize tests tonight if you cooperate. Evan pressed the elevator button and stood very still. We stepped in when the doors opened and faced forward. He checked the stroller straps with careful fingers. I hit record again and spoke to the glass. We meet them in court, not in their traps. The knock landed like a command before the elevator ding faded. 2 officers stood at our door with a clipboard held level. Welfare check on a minor, the taller one announced. Evan unlocked the chain and opened wide enough to breathe. I started my camera and stepped into their frame. Any reports of shouting or damaged property today? No shouting, no damage, you can look, I answered. They scanned our faces first, not the apartment. Who requested the check? I asked without blinking. Relative by blood, the shorter one replied, eyes steady. They checked our fridge and the child's room fast. I asked if they needed anything else documented. We note cooperation here and move on, the taller said. Provide a direct contact for follow-up, I requested. He handed a card and moved his pen again. My phone buzzed before the door closed. Daycare number flashed with an urgent tone. Child's grandmother tried to collect him with paperwork, the director said. Authorization lacked matching signatures, so we refused pick up. She is still outside, came the whisper. We're coming now, I answered and grabbed the diaper bag. Evan rolled the stroller into the hall and locked the door. The officers watched us pass with neutral faces. Call dispatch if she interferes, one added quietly. I nodded once and punched the elevator button. We cut through traffic with clipped breaths and no radio. My screen showed a live feed from the daycare entrance. She paced near the gate with a binder under one arm. A man in a suit stood beside her with a tablet. I focused the camera on their hands. We parked and moved toward the gates as a unit. She pivoted toward us with a smile too bright. Finally, we can avoid court if you sign today. Step back from the entrance, Evan responded, palm raised. The man swiped his tablet and lifted a stylus. The director appeared inside the gate and waved us closer. She wants to schedule regular pickups starting tomorrow, the director said. File shows no legal basis, she added, voice firm. I handed my phone to Evan and turned to her. Explain the new authority you think you have. She lifted a laminated letter with a crest near the top. Temporary kinship support while paternity is clarified, she announced. I took a picture and zoomed on an accreditation stamp. The seal was mirrored like a flipped photo. Her expression faltered one beat, then smoothed. The suited man leaned in with a calming hand motion. This is preemptive to stabilize caregiving routines. Who are you? I asked, camera on his face. Consultant for family transitions, he replied with a practiced nod. His eyes jumped to the tablet like it contained oxygen. Evan moved the stroller between them and the gate. You keep drifting past the line, he warned. The consultant floated a reminder about compliance and delays. I reached past him and rang the bell again. We need a staff witness for this exchange. A teacher stepped out and crossed her arms hard. She came during nap time with documents and a speech. Refused to leave after we declined, the teacher added. I recorded her statement and asked for the time noted. 14:53, she answered without checking anything. The consultant tried another angle with a softer pitch. Just an interim sharing of decisions until everything is settled. Not happening, Evan replied with measured clarity. I logged the exact phrasing and time in my notes. She tapped her binder and looked at the street. A sedan idled half a block away with hazard lights on. The rear window dropped a few inches and rose again. She glanced at it and tucked hair behind an ear. The door cracked open for 1 second and shut. I felt the pattern forming in the air. Who's in the car? I asked and pointed. Transportation for a supervised visit, she answered too fast. The consultant coughed and checked the sidewalk carefully. Facility is pre-booked, hourly slot, neutral staff. He pulled up a QR code that led nowhere. I stepped back and dialed the precinct from the officer's card. We have a welfare caller attempting unauthorized transfer here. Record shows earlier check was satisfied, the dispatcher confirmed. Unit available, will swing by if needed. I kept the line open and watched their shoulders tighten. She switched from sweet to steel in one breath. You'll force me to file an emergency petition tonight. Already filed, I responded, watching her blink. Your surprise hearing moved to morning was flagged to us. Her mouth closed and opened without sound. The sedan eased away from the curb without signaling. I shot the plates and sent them to Amanda. Cross-checking with the clinic incident, she wrote back fast. I lifted my eyes and saw the binder move. A small kit slipped from the inside pocket. Evans scooped it up before it hit concrete. Another private testing kit, I noted into the phone. He showed it to the teacher through the fence. The teacher nodded and pointed at the camera above the gate. Everything captured, time-stamped, stored. The consultant tried to retrieve the kit with polite fingers. Evan placed it in a clear bag and sealed it. This will accompany our report at pickup time. My phone chimed with a text from an unknown number. Carlton can confirm paternity tonight if you cooperate. Stop pushing off Book Labs, I called out without raising volume. The consultant spread his hands as if cleaning glass. I'm offering options to reduce uncertainty, he murmured. We reduce uncertainty by waiting for certified results, I replied. She shifted weight and stared at the daycare camera. Two squad cars rolled into the block with gentle speed. The cruiser lights didn't flash yet, which mattered. Officers stepped out and approached the gate in a line. The director lifted her chin and spoke clearly. Attempted pickup without authorization was declined. An officer turned to our side and listened. I replayed the video of the kit slipping out. Evan mentioned the mirrored stamp on the letter. The officer requested the binder for a quick look. She clutched it and shook her head. Then photograph each page, the officer instructed calmly. I shot the pages in sequence while Evan tracked time. The consultant watched me with an embarrassed smile. Paperwork fatigue is very real, he offered weakly. No one answered that line. Another message hit my screen with Amanda's name. Clinic report shows attempted badge access at storage. Time matches your daycare arrival, she added. They had captured a figure on camera wearing a lanyard. The still showed a face partially turned away. I rotated the image toward her and watched the flicker. She swallowed and then said the badge must be counterfeit. Good, because security called the real holder, I responded. Real holder was home with the flu, Amanda texted next. The consultant checked his tablet like it might fix gravity. Officers finished notes and asked for contact numbers. The director supplied her card through the slats quickly. The teacher offered to sign a witness. Statement later. The squad car lights pulsed once as a warning. She stepped back 2 paces and reset the smile. Let's regroup at the courthouse in the morning. Bring every form you have, I answered and pocketed my phone. Evan guided the stroller away from the gate slowly. We smiled at the staff and moved toward the corner. The consultant trailed us until the officers gestured stop. We reached the car and locked the doors. A notification popped up from the pediatric office. Faxed request for full records was rejected again. The sender field showed another private number. I forwarded it to the officer's card with a short note. Traffic boxed us in at the next light. The sedan from earlier slid up 2 lanes behind. I nudged Evan's arm and pointed to the mirror. We changed destination now, I muttered. He nodded and turned at the station sign. We pulled into the precinct lot and parked near the entrance. The sedan rolled past and kept going without stopping. Inside, a desk sergeant looked up and raised a finger. Incident related to family interference, I began. We have photos and timestamps for everything. He waved a junior officer to take our statement. Evan produced the sealed kit and the mirrored letter. I cued the video of the binder spill. Our son dozed, then stirred, then stilled again. The officer typed while glancing at the screen. Any threats or intimidation tonight? The sergeant asked. Only implied consequences and invented authority, I answered. He scribbled and nodded one efficient time. Attach the daycare photos and the plate captures. I uploaded everything and watched the progress bar crawl. Another ping, Amanda again, 3 messages stacked. Security pulled clearer footage of the badge attempt. Female, hair in a low twist, enters with a borrowed jacket. Exit shows her on a call using a white earbud. I inhaled and showed the description to the sergeant. He compared the still to the description line by line. We can request the full video under an incident number. He gave us a copy of the case receipt. Keep your devices on and answer unknown numbers. That includes the lab, he added with a small glance. We left the station with our report number saved. The sedan didn't reappear on the next stretch. Evan's shoulders lowered a notch but stayed braced. My screen vibrated again with a courthouse text alert. Accelerated review moved to 8:30 tomorrow. I dialed the clerk who had messaged in Chapter 3's scene, then stopped. No backtracking here, only new steps to mark. I confirmed the slot with a careful voice. Bring the contested documents, the clerk advised briskly. Security will funnel parties to separate halls. We drove straight to the laboratory instead of home. The guard recognized our number from incident notes. He buzzed us into the reception area and checked IDs. A supervisor appeared with a printed log of events. 3 calls tried to alter delivery instructions. Are our samples safe? Evan asked without blinking. Secured and audited, the supervisor answered, face precise. He showed us the seal photos taken at intake. He compared them with our signatures on the chain slips. His finger paused over a timestamp with a red flag. Someone phoned pretending to be a court clerk, he said. They requested a duplicate kit to be prepared. Denied for lack of case number, he added. He slid a form across the desk for our statement. I wrote each detail and dotted each time. Security printed a still of the badge visitor at storage. The profile angle was sharper than the first image. A small earring matched photos on her public account. I stared at it long enough to feel the click. Not a confession, but the thread had teeth. The supervisor asked if we wanted a delivery hold. Pick up in person only, no couriers, no proxies. He added the note and stamped the instruction line. Results released with state ID and matching claim. He underlined the rule twice like a vow. We walked back to the car in a pocket of quiet. Evan buckled our son and checked the straps again. I messaged Amanda to thank her for the fast alerts. She replied with a final line before going offline. Expect an attempt at the courthouse too. Home at last, we entered past a neighbor who peeked. No one waited by our door this time. Evan placed the report copy in a drawer and locked it. I set an alarm for dawn and laid out clothes. We moved around each other like a practice drill. My phone buzzed on the table with one more note. Unknown number again with a confident tone. Tomorrow brings truth if you stop obstructing, it read. I blocked the sender and logged the time. The apartment settled, but my pulse did not. Evan stood by the window and watched the street. He stayed there long enough to count 3 buses. You sleep first, I'll handle the next call. I nodded and leaned on the door for balance. The night stretched. D and the morning aimed straight at us. We reached the courthouse and a deputy scanned our notice. Party names, his voice bored holes through the morning. I showed the incident number and the daycare report. He pointed us to a side corridor for families. I kept my camera running in my pocket. A clerk approached with a tray of numbered tickets. Your matter advanced to the urgent calendar. She studied our faces and lowered her voice. Expect an attorney to appear for the petitioner. The word petitioner burned down my spine. Evan parked the stroller beside a bench and stood. I took the top copy of our police file. Across the hall, her shoes clicked like a metronome. She arrived with a new lawyer and a rigid smile. I felt my jaw lock and unlock. Her lawyer greeted the deputy like an old colleague. He handed over a motion stamped 10 minutes earlier. The deputy skimmed and raised an eyebrow once. Seeking temporary placements and supervised exchanges, he said flatly. My throat tightened but stayed quiet. A caseworker in a cardigan joined their huddle. She held a tablet with our address on the screen. The daycare photos were already pinned to a section. I watched her review with a neutral face. She never met my eyes. An usher called our number and pointed at a room. Evan pushed the stroller through the threshold first. The judge sat forward with hands steepled, gaze steady. Proceed with the emergency request, the judge said. Her lawyer started smooth like a practice song. He described confusion and a child caught between jurisdictions. He summarized alleged volatility in vague professional phrases. He suggested a neutral caregiver from the petitioner's circle. I counted his steps until he reached the ask. Early placement with grandparent while testing concludes. I lifted my recorder and waited for permission. The judge nodded once without expression. I played the daycare clip showing the hidden swab. I narrated only timestamps and actions, nothing else. The judge held up a hand for silence. Her lawyer pivoted without blinking at the footage. Misunderstandings occurred during heightened conflict. He produced a document with a crest, new today. Grandparent certified in emergency care response. The judge examined the seal with careful hands. Evan slid our lab receipt forward and spoke evenly. Samples collected under sealed custody and logged yesterday. We requested in-person retrieval by authorized parties only. The judge marked that and leaned toward the caseworker. Any concerns recorded by field officers. The caseworker read from her tablet in clipped lines. Home visited last night and appeared orderly. No injuries or hazards noted. Daycare declined unauthorized release and contacted guardians. The judge turned back to the petitioner's table. Her lawyer produced a new trick with precise timing. He played an audio clip of a woman sobbing hard. "I can't keep him safe," the voice whispered. Evan looked at me in shock and confusion. I raised one finger and asked to replay. I listened to the breaths between the words slowly. The inhale did not match the exhale rhythm. The audio looped a parked car in the background. I held up our location history from last evening. We were at the station during that hour. The judge requested the metadata without a smile. Her lawyer hesitated and coughed once into his sleeve. Source is a concerned relative with motive to help. File shows no capture information, the caseworker noted. The judge asked for a short recess to review. We stepped into the hallway and stood apart. My phone vibrated with a blocked number calling. I answered on speaker with the volume high. "Last chance to spare everyone pain," came a whisper. Evan stared at the ceiling like holding a weight. I kept the caller talking for another 10 seconds. Then I hung up and saved the recording. The number traced to a cloud service immediately. Amanda texted a news still from the lab camera. The badge jacket stood outside again at dawn. The usher waved us back into the courtroom quickly. The judge entered with a stack of notes. "Petitioner's exhibits lack verifiable sources and chain," the judge said. The phrase landed like a click in a locked door. Her lawyer's jaw moved but produced nothing. The judge addressed the caseworker with plain instructions. Schedule an unannounced home check within 72 hours. No interim displacement unless new facts arise. Visitation only with both parents present in public. I let out a breath I did not know I held. Her face did not break during the ruling. She nodded and produced one more paper like a trap. A signed letter from a family member volunteering guardianship. The judge glanced at the name and paused. "Bring that person to the stand." Jamie emerged from the back row without warning. His tie was crooked and his cheeks flushed. He avoided looking at us and stared at the F. "Lore." The clerk raised a small card for his oath. He lifted his hand and his fingers trembled. "Describe your involvement," the judge requested. Jamie cleared his throat and chose a cautious pace. He referenced concerned conversations and a push for stability. He mentioned a promise of career help vaguely. My stomach sank, but I kept watching his eyes. I stepped forward as permitted and asked one question. "Did you call the lab or visit storage?" He flinched like the floor shifted under him. "I phoned a number given to me," he muttered. The judge leaned closer with renewed interest. "Who gave you that number?" the judge asked. Jamie swallowed and looked directly at his aunt. He blinked slowly and took a breath. "I received it from her last night." The room exhaled like a balloon losing air. Her lawyer stood before the damage spread. He asked to strike the last line as hearsay. The judge declined with a clipped motion. "Statement remains, credibility will be weighed." The record light glowed like a warning. The caseworker requested a copy of the lab incident. I handed over the still and the timeline entries. She took notes and flagged the unanswered calls. The judge added them to the official file. Her eyes never left the petitioner's row. Evan requested a protection note against unauthorized approach. The judge wrote it into the minute order quickly. Exchanges happen at the precinct lobby only. Any uninvited contact triggers immediate report. My shoulders relaxed one notch but stayed ready. Jamie whispered something to her while they gathered papers. She ignored him and stared straight ahead. He moved closer and tried again with urgency. She stepped away without turning her head. He looked at us and then looked down. The judge stood and the room followed. "Return tomorrow for status if lab contacts you. Clerk will notify chambers if evidence appears overnight." We waited until the gavel tapped once. Then we filed into the corridor in silence. In the hallway, Jamie approached with palms up. "I need to correct something that will hit later." His voice trembled as if the words were heavy. "She planned another pickup with a different driver." He looked sick and pale. "Where and when?" Evan asked, stance squared and calm. "Library lot near the park at 6, Jamie answered. Driver paid cash to avoid paper trails. I entered the details into my notes as he spoke. I asked for the license numbers. He gave a partial sequence and winced. "It changes every few days to avoid attention." I turned away and called the precinct desk. I reported the location and the time window. They logged it under our case number. Her lawyer stormed past without acknowledging anyone. She followed at a measured pace, posture rigid. Jamie remained behind and rubbed his temples. I thought I was helping a kid, he whispered. He left before we could reply. We stepped outside and the air felt thin. Amanda texted another alert with urgency. Someone tried to request a new parenting access code. The system refused it due to the court note. I thanked her with 3 words and a period. We drove to the library lot 15 minutes early. Evan parked across 2 empty spaces and cut the engine. He checked the stroller straps and checked them again. I opened the recorder app and watched the entrance. Every car looked like a possibility. A rideshare sedan rolled in and idled. The driver stared down at his phone. Another car pulled through and paused near the curb. My pulse drummed against the seatbelt lightly. Evan adjusted the mirror and did not blink. A woman stepped from the second car with crisp movements. She scanned the area and touched her earbud. She approached the rideshare driver and showed him her screen. He shook his head and pointed to posted rules. She turned away and called someone quickly. My phone vibrated with a message from an unknown contact. Bring the child now and everyone goes home happy. Evan's lips pressed into a straight, unyielding line. We stayed in the car and recorded the clock. The woman circled twice and headed back out. 2 unmarked vehicles slid into the far corner. Officers stepped out slowly and watched from a distance. I texted the plate numbers we saw to the case thread. Received, the precinct reply pinged back. The rideshare driver pulled away without taking a passenger. We left the lot after the officers signaled clear. Home sat quiet and wary when we arrived. I set tomorrow's outfits by the door for speed. Evan checked the locks and rechecked the windows. The stroller creaked and our child stirred once. My phone rang with the lab's main number on display. A calm voice confirmed our identities twice for release protocol. We have a status regarding your samples, the voice said. Results entered the system and await manual verification. The line popped softly and went silent. How long for manual checks? I asked, heart drum. Ming. By next business morning at the latest, the voice answered. You will need to come in person with ID. I thanked the voice and ended the call slowly. Evan leaned on the counter and stared at nothing. The apartment hummed with a faint mechanical sound. My recorder ticked once as the file saved. A final message arrived and sat without preview. I opened it and read a single sentence. Truth hurts most when spoken in court tomorrow. The lab doors opened before we reached the desk. Bring your IDs, the supervisor lifted a sealed envelope. He compared faces to forms, then logged a final note. Release requires both signatures with the claim number. My hand didn't shake until the pen lifted. He broke the seal and read the line twice. Probability of paternity greater than 99.99. The room narrowed to a single clear sentence. Evan closed his eyes and gripped the counter edge. I pressed record and captured the confirmation. We walked into the corridor and paused by the stairwell. Our phones lit up at the same time like a cue. Unknown number again, the voice low and rehearsed. Think carefully before humiliating family in open court. I saved the audio and blocked the caller. We reached the courthouse security and stepped through together. The clerk spotted the envelope and waved us forward. Judge requested any authenticated findings immediately. I handed it over and watched the stamp drop. The thunk echoed up the hall like a drum. Inside, the petitioner's table already arranged new folders. Her lawyer rose with a smooth, practiced breath. Before we proceed, a stipulation might spare everyone pain. Evan remained standing, palms flat on the rail. I raised the recorder and waited for permission. Introduce your exhibit, the judge said without ceremony. The clerk placed our document on the bench. The judge read the paragraph aloud and glanced up. Result confirms biological father with overwhelming certainty. Her lawyer's shoulders stiffened, but his smile stayed painted. She didn't look at the paper and focused on me. Even facts can be arranged to mislead outcomes. The judge lifted a brow at that construction. Do you contest the laboratory's integrity under oath? She hesitated long enough for the room to lean in. "Call Jamie," the judge ordered, voice clipped and cool. He stood from the second row with dull eyes. "Describe any instructions you received regarding test handling." His gaze skittered, then locked on the table edge. "She told me to push another clinic after collection." A ripple moved through the benches like wind. Her jaw tightened, then relaxed with visible effort. "I requested speed because the child deserves stability." The judge tapped the file with a slow finger. "Stability is not served through interference." The caseworker approached with a printed incident summary. "Attempted access to storage noted during your daycare visit." She placed the still beside the court copy. The judge compared timestamps and marked a margin line. Silence settled like weight on a glass shelf. Her lawyer tried to redirect with a new storyline. Emotions ran high and intentions were protective. He offered no documents this time, only phrasing. The judge looked past him to the petitioner directly. "Do you maintain the allegation that the child isn't his?" She drew a breath, then another, then glanced at the door. Her voice came out small and hard at once. "I believed it until today." The judge waited for the rest like a held note. She added nothing, and the moment curdled. "Emergency petition denied," the judge ruled, tone decisive. "No unsupervised pickups, no third-party labs, no reroutes. Any further contact occurs in the precinct lobby. Next review in 2 weeks for compliance check." The gavel struck once and froze the air. We stepped into the hallway and finally exhaled. Jamie hovered near the wall with his phone face down. "I'll testify again if they try something new." He looked at the floor and stuffed the phone away. Guilt hung on him like a heavy jacket. She approached us slowly without her lawyer's shield. "Walk away and spare his childhood from this noise." Evan lifted the envelope and tapped the stamped corner. "He'll remember honesty, not threats." Her mouth trembled, but the eyes stayed sharp. I turned to the recorder and spoke for the file. "Outcome documented, court directives clear and active." Our son reached for Evan's sleeve and babbled happily. Evan crouched and kissed his forehead with steady hands. Behind us, footsteps halted, then retreated down the corridor. At the exit, my phone buzzed one last time. Amanda's text landed with a small exhale of relief. "Lab closed the incident, report forwarded to the caseworker." I typed 2 words and a period. "Done for now," but we kept the cameras rolling.